Ask 100 people what they desire out of life, and the top 3 answers are likely to be money, love, and happiness. But look a little deeper and you'll see that people really only desire happiness. Money and love are just different paths to it. And of course they do, with all the media that's created convincing us that that's the ultimate achievement in life, and all the emphasis we place on it as a society, it's hard not to. But is this really a worthwhile pursuit? Let's find out. A couple months ago, I watched Jordan Welch's first video on his new channel, and I noticed something. In fact, I didn't just notice it, Jordan himself said it. He said that despite him being in a foreign country in a luxury accommodation with all the money in the world at a point in his life where he can honestly say that he's achieved everything he's ever set out to do and more, he still feels like something is missing. Despite having all these things, he still isn't happy. Which in a way isn't surprising. We all know that money can't buy happiness, and that all the things in the world can't make you feel better permanently. But that's not what struck me. What struck me was that even achieving his dreams hasn't made him happier. I mean, sure, maybe it did for a day or two, but it didn't last. And it definitely didn't match the amount of time, effort, and energy that he put into it.
I became a millionaire years ago. I retired my mom. She does what she loves for a living. I send her thousands of dollars every single month. I have a happy relationship, dream house in Miami, dream car, whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm finding that when you accomplish things, it feels good only for a moment. It only feels good for like the day that you do it or the day after you do it. And I thought that I was gonna be like over the moon, elated. I was gonna be feeling like a whole new level of happiness unlocked. And for some reason, it's not that.
To make things worse, he isn't the first to admit this. Countless others have too. But how could this be? Could it be that chasing happiness and realizing our dreams isn't all that society promises it to be? That doing what we're supposed to do isn't really what we're meant to do? Could it be that happiness is just a red herring and that there's actually something else that's better? Yes, but before I tell you what it is, let me first explain why money, happiness, and success will never be enough. The thing is, satisfaction, abundance, and enoughness, these aren't dependent on anything external. They're actually more so dependent on our perception of the external. We can be the richest, most successful, most famous person and have the most loving partner, but if we never allow ourselves to recognize this, then we'll always see ourselves as poor, unsuccessful, unknown, and unloved. We'll always just see and feel lack, and therefore attract more experiences that magnify the sensation within us. Importantly, these don't necessarily have to be experiences that are objectively bad or lacking, but rather just ones that make us feel more lacking. For example, if you feel lonely, you could still be invited to parties, but being surrounded by so many people that you don't connect with would just make you feel even more lonely and isolated. If you feel poor, you could be accepted into upscale circles, but instead of making you feel rich, you'll just be pulled to compare yourself with those who are even richer. If you feel unsuccessful, you could have a successful business, yet still feel like it isn't enough, and so on and so forth. So even though they're attaining all these accomplishments, the reason some people claim they aren't any happier for it is because they're doing it with a lack mentality, and therefore they'll never think it's enough. It's like that story where everything you touch becomes gold, except the opposite, because with a lack mentality, everything you attain immediately becomes insufficient. And as soon as it does, that happiness you fought so hard for, it fades just as quickly as it came. This is why, as long as you have a lack mentality, money, happiness, and success will never be enough. Combine this with the fact that, as I explained in a previous video, happiness can never last regardless, and you can start to understand why, in my opinion, chasing happiness and realizing your dreams aren't in and of themselves worthwhile pursuits. So what should we focus on instead? In my opinion, fulfillment and satisfaction are much more worthwhile pursuits than happiness. I've broken down why this is into 3 main reasons. The first and most obvious is that fulfillment and satisfaction are the opposite of lack. Therefore, logically, these are the only things that can release us from having a lack mindset. And once they do, everything else will instantly become better. You'll now actually be able to enjoy the money, love, success, fame, and anything else you were previously so desperately chasing, and you'll be able to do so for longer too. This is because fulfillment and satisfaction are kind of like adding salt to a dish. Without them, it's pretty much impossible to enjoy any of the goodness present in your life. But when they're present, they instantly make all the good in your life even better, and any heaviness that much easier to handle. And the best part is that, unlike salt, you can't overdo it when it comes to fulfillment and satisfaction. So it's a win-win. The second reason is that your level of fulfillment and satisfaction, unlike your happiness, is something you can directly control, which is essentially going from having an external locus of control to an internal one. If you don't already know, having an external locus of control means that you believe that what happens to you is purely dependent on things external to you, on your circumstances or the people surrounding you, for example. Things you can't control. An internal locus of control, on the other hand, is the perception and belief that what happens to you is due to things that you directly have a role in. Your actions, your beliefs, the way you communicate, etc. This is important because, as you could probably guess, having an internal locus of control leads to feelings of empowerment, and having an external locus of control leads to feelings of victimhood and disempowerment. So, by focusing on raising your levels of satisfaction and fulfillment rather than your level of happiness, you'll automatically feel more empowered and you'll automatically experience more emotional stability. Put simply, unlike with happiness, which will either frustrate you when you're unable to attain it or disappoint you when it inevitably leaves, working on your level of fulfillment and satisfaction can only bring you positive results, because either you'll feel that you're at least further along than before, or you'll feel like you already attained them. The last and perhaps most important reason is that, unlike happiness, fulfillment and satisfaction aren't emotions. They're mental states, energetic states. And that means that, unlike emotions, which are necessarily transient, you could theoretically experience these things permanently. So the returns that you get from working on them are infinitely more than the diminished returns that you get from trying to raise your level of happiness. Essentially, more bang for your buck. So what do you think? Is chasing happiness worth it? Leave me a comment down below letting me know. And make sure to check out the other videos of this 3-part series on happiness. I honestly think they have the power to change your life. If that interests you, I'll link them in the description below. As for right now though, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.